Ironman 70.3 Augusta, what an experience and what a race it was on Sunday. I originally put Augusta on my 2022 schedule for a couple of reasons. One, ever since I got into triathlon a few years ago, I've heard about this iconic swim. It is known to be one of the fastest, if the fastest, swim in the Ironman American circuit. So really wanted to see what all the hype was about. And then two, I am signed up for Ironman Arizona. So Augusta was almost the halfway point to Arizona, so I thought it would just be good to use it as, a long training day, see where my baseline is right now to tackle in that last half of Ironman Arizona training. Going into Augusta, I didn't have a ton of expectations for myself. I got pretty severely injured in the beginning of July and had to take a month and a half off from training, and then once I got cleared to start doing things again, I moved to Austin, Texas, and only really had about 4 weeks to build for Augusta. I always like to get in a full training block before 70.3, but we were just working with what we got. So going into it, I just really thought about it as a good long training day and to see where my baseline is at, things I need to work on, where my strengths are and everything to go into this last half of Ironman Arizona training. Before watching this race recap video, I highly suggest you go over to my previous video, which was the 70.3 Augusta race weekend video, where I take you through the days leading into the race on Sunday, my preparation for it, my shakeout runs and rides, what the venue looks like, and just the overall course, some glimpse into the swim and to the bike. If you've already watched that, then let's get into the race recap of 70.3 Augusta. Alright, so race morning, woke up at 3:30 just so I could start getting calories in and getting my hydration going. But as soon as I woke up, I did not feel 100%. Felt really nauseous, felt really groggy, which obviously isn't ideal. This has never happened to me on a race morning, so as soon as I felt this, I really started getting my hydration going, stretching and all of that so I could feel as good as I could getting to the start. Looking back, I woke up Saturday morning with what I thought was allergies. Just a little bit of a sore, dry throat, runny nose, feeling a little nauseous, but we just went from Texas to Georgia and it was about 20 degrees cooler in Georgia. So like I said, I just assumed it was allergies and just, stayed on top of my vitamin C, hydration, all of that just to prevent just anything on race morning. But obviously woke up race morning not feeling great, so like I said, got my hydration. I think I took about 1,500 milligrams of sodium before getting to the start line, and also just pumping in regular water as well. The thing about the Augusta course is the swim is a 1.2 mile straight shot downstream swim, so transition is not in the same spot as the swim start and the swim finish. It's at the swim finish, obviously, but to get to the swim start, we had to take a bus. Once we got to the swim start, we got after some warm-up and dynamic stretches just to get the blood flowing and oxygen into the body, getting nice and loose before we entered the swim. And it was time to self-seed ourselves based on what we thought our projected swim finish time was going to be. Now, since this was a downstream swim, I knew my splits were going to be a little faster than they were in the pool, so I projected about 10 seconds per 100 meters faster than they were in the pool. So in the pool, splits are usually 1:45, so I seeded myself within the 30 to 33 minute group. Now I remember standing on the swim line to get to the start, not feeling great still, just feeling really nauseous and groggy. And I was like, dude, you have to snap out of it right now because we're about to do a half Ironman and you need to get pumped up. So I was trying to pump myself up, just speaking very positively to myself, going over my strategy for the swim and then into the bike and everything, just trying to get my mindset really in the race and not on how I was feeling. So I hopped in the water and now it was a jump off the dock start. So how I landed in the water is I put my arms out so that I could hit the water and just push myself right back up to the surface. So, I didn't go too far down the water to where it would take a lot of extra time to get back up and get started. Right as I got in the water, I got into my rhythm and I got into my flow, which made me feel so much better. And I remember telling myself, like, this is what we love to do. Let's go after it today and let's get after the swim. About 10 minutes into the swim, the sun rose and it was bright. We were sighting directly into the sun. So I definitely think I lost a couple of seconds by having to really look up and see where the buoys were, because I always like to stay to all the way, if the buoys are on my left, all the way to the left. If my buoys are on the right, all the way to the right, because it just helps me swim straight in the open water, just having those different sight points that I can use. I came out of the swim in an official time of 31 minutes, which is a 1:36 minute per 100 split, which I was over the moon about. It was exactly what I was projecting myself to do, 10 seconds faster than I normally am in the pool. So the pool 1:45, 1:36 split. So happy about that because it is also a 7-minute PR. Current PR was at Ironman 70.3 Texas in Galveston. It was a 38-minute swim. So over the moon, happy about that. So came out of the swim 8th out of 22 in my age group. Normally after the swim, I middle the pack in my age group. So as soon as you got out of the swim, there was a beautiful uphill that you had to run up through the finish chute into T1. From the swim finish to my bike in T1, it was about 0.2 miles. So transition took a little longer than I would have hoped, just because it took some time to get from the swim finish to T1. Very happy with how quick I got off my wetsuit and put on my bike gear. Transition was a little longer than normal, but that's all good. We headed out onto the bike. First 8 miles of the bike were relatively flat. It was on a highway, and then you hit a left onto back roads, and that is where the elevation really started to kick in. At mile 8, you were greeted by a 300-foot climb in a little less than 0.3 miles. So it was a pretty decent climb. You just saw like a group of 75 people going up there at once. But it wasn't something we couldn't handle or anything, but it was definitely a nice greeting to what was about to come for the next 35 miles. So after that first climb, we had about 3 miles of flat road. Then we turned right onto backcountry roads that greeted us with a 4-mile climb. Miles 11-15 was a 4-mile incline, and instead of being graded with a downhill, we were greeted with a flat road. So had to climb up a little bit and then try to get our momentum back. And then for the next 30 miles, it was all pretty similar. You know, you would have a climb and then a flat road, or a climb and a really nice downhill. So, you know, it was rolling, but it definitely felt more like steep hill into steep downhill or steep hill into flat road, as opposed to, you know, rolling. Like I did 70.3 Memphis, and that was a prime example of a rolling course to me. This one I think surprised everyone with how hilly it was. I think the one that really got a lot of people is at mile 25. You were going like 28 miles per hour down this downhill, and then all of a sudden there was a cop car, and you had to come to like a screeching halt and turn left into this 400-foot climb that lasted kind of the same as the first one, like 0.2 miles. So it was pretty steep, and there was a photographer right there as you were going up it. So that one was really the last big climb that we all had to do. And then like I said, it was just continuing rolling, and the hill stopped around mile 42. Once you got to mile 42, it was pretty much flat, but the roads were pretty terrible. There were just, you know, during these races, if there's holes or cracks in the road, they'll circle them with spray paint. And there was like one point where the whole entire road seemed to be orange with spray paint, because there were just so many holes and everything. And one lady came up to me, like rode up next to me. She goes, "Was this an obstacle course?" And I was like, I don't know, literally. But a lot of, you know, loose bottles everywhere from just all the bumps and bottles flying out of cages. My friend Ryan, unfortunately, his whole nutrition bottle popped out of his bike cage, and he lost that and was cramping on the run. So just not great roads to be riding on, and speed definitely had to drop a little bit to make sure, you know, I didn't flat or anything. But yeah, after mile 42, it was pretty much flat straight into the finish. The last like mile coming in to the finish, I was just thinking about where I was at right now, what I had to do in transition, set myself up for the run. And I was kind of like, if 1 + 1 = 2, 2 + 2 = 4, from my swim and my bike, I should be on track for a PR if I can hit my run. And so once I kind of started thinking about that, I started really getting into the zone of, okay, we're going to do this on the run, we're going to hit that and this, and really getting my mind right to have a really good run off the bike. Now, my official time for my bike was 3 hours and 16 minutes. The day before, once I saw the bike course, just, you know, based on the elevation, how much training I knew I was able to get into this and all of that, I texted my best friend. I was like, I think I'm gonna do this bike course in like 3 hours and 17 minutes. So 3 hours and 16 minutes, same thing, projected it almost to a T. And I was really happy with my bike. I felt like I could see the maturity in myself from the first time I did, a hillier course to now. I used to really try to muscle up every single hill and then spike my heart rate and completely burn out by the top and wreck the bike part of my race. But now, I learned, try to keep the heart rate a little lower, drop the gear a little bit and just get to the top of the hill, hit money in the bank on the downhills and the flat roads, and I came off the bike feeling really, really good. So I'm super proud of how my bike was, even if it wasn't the fastest bike split I've had on a rolling hills course, still overall super, super over the moon about it. So now coming in to the run from the bike, I was feeling really, really good actually. Normally it takes my body about a mile or two on the run to settle in, get my pace going and everything, but literally as soon as I went out on the run from transition, my legs were just feeling super good, my body was feeling really good, and I was ready to go deep. And I wasn't expecting a PR on this day, but I was like, you know what, it's a reasonable split to hit for it, so let's go after it. So I settled in on the pace I needed to hit in order to PR, and I was ready to just dig deep and send it to the finish. But then 1.5 miles into the run, my stomach started feeling really weird. And now I've only ever thrown up 3 times in my entire life before Sunday's race, and so I didn't know what it felt like when you were about to throw up really, but now I know this was it. About just under 2 miles on the run, I threw up. And so since I've never really thrown up before, or it's been a while, I didn't really know what to do. So I was kind of like, all right, let's go to the aid station, get some water and everything. So it was like another 1/2 mile to the aid station. I took in some water and then started trying to run again and threw up again. And I threw up 10 times just consistently throughout the 13.1 mile run. At mile 4, Caitlin found me, and so I told her, I was like, I keep throwing up. I've thrown up 3 times already and I just don't feel well and everything. So she texted Natasha and she was like, hey, Jules throwing up, what should she do? And so Natasha relayed the message to Caitlin, relayed to me that I need to stop running and just take in water and let my stomach settle. So that's exactly what I did, and I walked from miles 4 to 5, just taking in water, trying to cool down and everything. And then every single time I tried to go run, I would either throw up or dry heave. So the rest of the run basically turned into a walkathon for me. And I remember at mile 6, Caitlin being like, hey, do you want to pull out? You just keep throwing up. Do you want to pull out? And I was just like, no, I would rather walk this entire half marathon and get an 8:30 time than to pull out with 7 miles left. So, quitting and pulling out was not an option for me. I was going to finish that race no matter what it looked like, and it was just really about putting the ego aside and just getting some grit and doing what we had to do to cross the finish line. So yeah, that's pretty much how the run went for me. But then I met Barbara at mile 10. Now Barbara is 73-year-old woman. This was her 28th half Ironman. Me and her were both walking around the same part. I had just thrown up and I was an absolute mess. And she looked at me and she was like, what's up with you? Why are you walking? So I told her, and then I asked her why she was walking, and she just was like, oh hun, I'm just old. So I laughed and she asked me if I was on my last lap, to which I said yes, and she was like, good, let's finish this thing out together. So then for the last 3 miles, me and Barbara ran and walked to the finish, and then once we made the final right turn into the finish, she was like, okay, let's go for it, and we crossed the finish line together and got a picture. So overall, I guess my final thoughts, it's weird because I don't have a lot of thoughts on Augusta. I think other than I'm glad it happened. The swim, even though it was a downstream swim, it still lit a fire under me to really keep progressing in my swim and to, in the pools consistently be hitting in the 130s. As for the bike, I definitely need to do a lot more strength work on the bike leading into Arizona. But other than that, pretty happy with my baseline bike fitness right now coming off of injury. And then the run, even though I couldn't really control what happened on the run just out of sickness, I am motivated to get my run better. My run is the discipline that lacks behind my swim and my bike. So I really want to, do a lot more running these 8 weeks leading into Arizona. Just consistently more 30-minute aerobic runs throughout the days, and then, nailing my tempo runs and my long runs for Arizona. Thank you guys so much for watching. I know this was more of a talk heavy video, but just wanted to give the full recap of how 70.3 Augusta went. And now let's get into Ironman Arizona training. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos. Even though I'm not racing these two races, I will be at Ironman 70.3 Waco and the full at Waco. I'm going to be filming it and everything. So if you want to get a glimpse into what that course looks like, don't forget to like and subscribe, and then follow for full Ironman content leading into Arizona.